Daddy's back.
Daddy's back. Butcher's such a badass.
I hate Butcher.
Did that make your nipples hard, Alex?
It did. You know, I realized, like, I was kind of, when I was growing my beard out a couple months ago, like, I was a little
Channeling him?
I was a little irritated that I didn't have, like, the cheek beard. But then I see Billy Butcher, and he doesn't have the cheek beard either. But I'm like, oh, you can make it look badass.
Yeah, you just have to be a badass.
Burn!
Damn. I now know what it feels like to be the deep. Welcome back to another episode of the Salty Nerd Podcast. I am your host, the Salty Nerd, and today we're discussing The Boys, Season 2, the first 3 episodes. And I am joined, as always, by my fantastic co-hosts, Jude,
Yes.
the ambassador of estrogen,
Here.
and Matthew Kadish, author extraordinaire.
Greetings, you wee twat.
Today we're talking about...
It's not as badass when you say it,
We're
babe.
also a man down.
Yeah, we are sadly a
unfortunately.
man down. Vader's not here.
Yeah,
Stupid.
Matt Vader had some family issues that he had to attend to, so he couldn't come to the recording today, but he is here in spirit.
Yep. What's up, boo? We miss you, Vader. We miss
Yes.
your angst.
Especially like he loves the boys.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
it's a shame we have to do this episode without him.
Yeah, we wanted to jump on top of it so we're not late to the game. But we're talking the first 3 episodes. The Big Ride is episode 1, Proper Preparation and Planning, episode 2, and Over the Hill with the Swords of 1,000 Men, episode 3.
It's a very long title.
It is a very long title. It's fun though. I'm kind of curious what it means because I didn't pick up any of that in the episode itself. But let's get started. Episode 1, we're catching up with the cliffhanger of the realization that Butchered Wife is still alive and Homelander had a son with her and is still alive also. That was like, holy cow, what's going to happen? Like, that was a huge cliffhanger for me. I was super excited to find out what happened.
Oh, and also the baby survived.
Dude,
We got some big revelations.
I call bullshit on that. You're telling me that Homelander took the time to save the baby that he loathed?
He did hate that baby.
He hated that
Yeah.
baby. I thought he was going to kill that baby. I love this. These 3 episodes were great. I love this show. That was like one of the red flags for me. I was like, did they not have the guts to go through with that? Like after everything, all the other dark, weird shit that happens in this show, like that was over the line for them, was to let a baby die? Really?
Well, I think it might go towards like Homelander does have some type of scruples. Homelander has some standards by which he lives by. Like he didn't have to save Billy Butcher either, but he did. So like I'm guessing that like
Well, because here's the thing. Like he saved Billy Butcher so that he could torture him. That's the only reason why he took him away from that explosion.
That's possible, but you got to understand, like someone who's as powerful as Homelander, in fact, he even likens himself to a god. He doesn't have to be constrained by anything. So like, the deal he made with, Butcher's ex to see his son if he spares Butcher's life, like he doesn't have to abide by that. He could basically show up whenever he wanted and meet with the kid anyway. The opening for this episode though, so like there's been a time jump.
Not very long from what I understand though, right?
Not too long, but long enough. And basically we get to see Black Noir in action, who's probably my favorite superhero.
I love him.
At the end of season 1, we had this super terrorist on the loose who basically like he's like his
Villain.
Super villain.
He's his
Get it
own,
right.
He's his own bomb basically. And Black Noir is on a mission to basically assassinate this guy. So the entire opening of the season 2 premiere is just Black Noir killing people left and right.
Being a freaking badass.
Yeah, and so like he finally confronts the supervillain and the guy explodes and basically like takes out like the entire building that they're in.
Yeah.
And when he returns back to normal, Black Noir's just standing there.
Like a
and,
badass.
Yeah, like a badass. And he's kind of injured. Like he's got like a little bit of burns on him.
Yeah, so I was wondering like I thought Black Noir was more of like a Batman character where he's
That's
more
what
or
I thought,
less
too.
normal, maybe a little hyper strength or something like that. But it turns out that he's invulnerable.
Well,
He's almost like a Superman character.
If you've read the comic, you kind of know a little bit something about Black Noir, but I'm not going to spoil that in case they decide to make it a reveal later on in the show.
So he's played by Canadian actor Nathan Mitchell, who has appeared on other shows. He was the vigilante Isaac on Arrow and an angel named Kelvin on Supernatural.
Right on. Well, hey, this is a big gig for him then. This is a jump up. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, but it was a great way to open the new season.
Yeah, it was a payoff for the little loose end that was in season 1.
And then we get to see the head of Vought negotiating with the U.S. government over their use of superheroes. And then we also get to see that they've explained away Transparent's death by claiming that he was murdered in a top secret operation against a Mexican drug cartel.
Yep.
And they're having a funeral for him, and they have this casket where there's nothing in the casket, but it's like a transparent casket with like a groove in like the bottom to make it look like there's a body in there.
Yeah, but they're basically like they buried him naked.
Yeah.
Why did they just put clothes
Well, there
on
wasn't
it?
anything left of him, remember?
No, I know,
It
but
was just easier to make it like, yeah, he's transparent.
Yeah. It's just a nod to him.
and he's naked.
Yeah.
And basically Starlight is at the funeral where Homelander gives the eulogy and she sings a song. And
What a cringy song, too.
Yeah.
Did you guys see the lyrics to it? It was so bad.
and A-Train is still unconscious from his heart attack in season 1.
Yeah.
And basically, life has been moving on. The boys are in hiding.
They're working. So the boys, the leftover boys, except for
Their
Butcher.
living situation is rough.
Yeah. They're basically living with these drug cartel, like low life drug cartel
It looks like they're
dealers.
living in the place where they found Kimiko in season 1.
Yeah, more or less. And they're just kind of trying to keep a low profile while also like making ends meet.
Yeah, Kimoko's looking pretty good though.
She looked
Oh,
great.
she's showering.
She's showering. She's
brushing
wearing
her
makeup.
hair.
Yeah.
She looks good in this season
Yeah.
so far. She was really
Yeah.
cool.
Am I saying her name right? Kimiko?
Yeah,
Kimiko?
I just call her Kim because her first 3 letters is Kim.
Okay.
I just call her Kim. But yeah, Kimiko.
Better
is-
than just calling her the female. Like we
yeah,
did.
well, we didn't know her name in the first. But yeah,
Oh, that's
Kimiko
what they
looks
call her
good.
in the comic though.
Yeah.
The female.
When does she get her name in the comic, or do they ever give her a name?
They don't ever give her a
It's
name.
just the female.
Yeah.
Because she can't talk, so they would never know. But yeah, we get to catch up with the boys, and it's really cool. It's funny to see
Huey.
It's fun to see Huey, like he's trying so hard to be like the new boss of the
Yeah.
crew.
He's trying to be the leader.
Yeah.
And he's just failing.
It's just not. He doesn't.
No one
have-
takes him
Yeah, no one takes
seriously.
him seriously, which is sad because he's like,
He's wee Huey.
yeah, he keeps calling him that. It's such a dig.
It's like, why do you call me that? I'm taller than you are.
It's just, you're a wee lad.
But it's cool to catch up to everybody. This episode really did a good job of kind of like making sure that we
It laid the
remember-
groundwork.
Yeah, laid
for
the groundwork
season.
really well for the whole season.
Yeah. So the big reveals this episode. There's something going on at Vought, some conspiracy for some type of coup that gets the CIA lady from season 1 killed.
I really expect them to answer that question. Like, how did that happen? So spoiler alert for this part, but they meet up with the CIA agent that was in the first season, and they're trying to get her to make a broker a deal so that they can get back with their families. And in return, they need to capture the super.
Yeah, they're trading the information about. So a superpowered terrorist is smuggled into the United States. The boys find out about it, and they trade that information to the CIA lady to try to get to see their families again.
Yeah. Like as soon as she puts the puzzle piece together and realizes that Vought is behind all of this, and she has that realization in front of everybody, her head just explodes,
Yeah.
like out of nowhere.
And the boys all freak
And
out.
the boys all
And
freak
they're
out.
covered in her insides.
Brains and everything. And it's just like, it's like one of those shocking moments that's classic for this TV
They
show.
hop in their van and
And
hightail
also,
it out.
it's very Scooby-Doo skedaddly. They're like, get the van, get the van.
Like,
They're like, I'm covered in blood. Oh my God.
Huey's reaction is freaking priceless. He just starts screaming. It was so funny. It was a great moment. I love the moment. It was very fitting for this show. I want to
at first,
know.
like her nose is bleeding.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they're like, are you okay? Your nose is bleeding.
Yeah, pop.
She checks and then all of a sudden her head just pops.
We never find out like who made her brain explode,
That's what
right?
I want to
Okay.
know.
Not yet.
What would do I ever find out? Not in these 3 episodes.
Oh,
anyway.
Matt has that look on his face, like he knows who it is based on reading it in the comic.
No, basically, like we have a whole season for them to reveal that.
Yes,
So,
yes.
like,
That's what I'm saying. I want to make sure that they reveal who did that.
I'm sure they will.
I hope they will, because there's no hint to it
I want to see
whatsoever.
who that is.
Well,
yeah.
I think like a big plot point this season, so like in the previous season, the big plot point was getting the government to kind of take on superheroes in the military. I think this one, they set up that there's some type of internal power struggle at Vought with a rival company or possibly this religious organization that we're introduced to that is looking to overtake Vought. And so like there's like some weird thing going on there.
Okay.
I think that's going to be an important through line throughout this season.
Yeah, I hope so. I really do want to know what that is.
Yeah. And,
It's like, that was a big thing for me. I was like, how the frick did that happen?
And so Starlight is still in communication with Huey, and he's been convincing her to help them get another sample of compound V so that they can expose Vought for what they've been doing. And Starlight is still on board with that, even though like her and Huey's relationship is kind of strained at this point. But, you know, she still feels it's her responsibility to get the truth out there. And so we see her track down another superhero that she kind of was in like a youth superhero group with.
Capes for Christ.
Capes for Christ. And this guy, his name is Gecko. His superhero name's Gecko. And he has the ability to basically regenerate his limbs. So like he's doing this weird kind of like S&M like prostitution thing
Where
like
people pay to be able to like dismember him.
Yeah.
and
Like
stuff
for
like that.
$1,000 you could chop my dick off.
yeah,
And
exactly.
the guy's like, where's the nearest
an
ATM?
And so like Starlight films him doing this
Like
and
blackmails him.
and it ends up that he works in like the lab division of Vought. So basically like he's like a test rat where they'll like cut off his limbs and test stuff on him.
Yeah.
So like he has access to compound V through his access to the labs. And so she blackmails him to get her a sample of compound V. So basically this entire episode is based around Huey trying to, you know, get Starlight to help the boys out by getting them compound V, but the boys don't take Huey seriously. And then after the CIA lady's head blows up, Frenchie calls Butcher and tells them leaves a message about where they're at. And then at the end of the episode, Butcher shows up and he has that great "Daddy's home" line.
What a shit-eating grin he had on his face.
Oh
too.
yeah,
That was great.
just like seeing Carl Urban just walk down those stairs in that jumpsuit, and like you know, of course he throws someone down the stairs before
Yep.
like he walks down them and he just
tell this twat. I'm with them lot.
like everyone's got a gun pointed at him. He doesn't care.
I noticed like in the first season, it's very like Billy Butcher has that accent and he has his own personality. In these first 3 episodes, I felt like Carl Urban went a bit too Jack Sparrow in some of the scenes, and I was like, that shit is straight out of Pirates of the Caribbean, man.
But you can tell he's having fun with the
Oh, yeah,
character.
he loves
and,
this character.
And that final line where he just kind of gives Huey a wink and a smile, and he's like, "Daddy's home." I love that part.
Yeah.
Like, what a great place to end that episode
Yeah,
on.
it
It was so good.
There's one more. Oh, the Deep. I want to talk about the Deep before we move
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
So we kind of pick back up with his like crisis of personality.
Yeah, he's at like a water park torturing children with like,
He's at such
like
a
water
low.
guns. Yeah,
He's at such a
he's
low
like drunk.
point.
He's like, "You think this is funny?
Water's dangerous.
Water's dangerous. You try swimming in the Marianas Trench." I do like that they're giving Deep some agency in this episode. So basically, he gets arrested for like firing water guns at children at a
It's
water
like
park.
public intoxication.
Yeah,
or
public
something.
intoxication, and he's bailed out by this guy named Eagle or Eagle Eye. Is it Eagle?
Eagle.
I think it's just Eagle.
It's just
All
evil.
right, and he's basically like a Hawkeye type guy. He's just really good at archery. That's his superpower. So he's like one of like the D-list like
Yeah.
superheroes. And
Seems like a nice guy, though.
yeah, and so
a little
like
cuckoo with the clan thing going on.
yeah,
or
so
the cult.
basically he bails Deep out of jail, and he can see that Deep's going through a crisis, and he's part of this like I want to say it's like Scientology for superheroes
Yeah.
type cult.
Yeah.
And so like he introduces him to like his Scientology handler, like whatever, and basically he's trying to recruit the Deep into this kind of religious organization that's based around superheroes. And this, I think, is going to be like the rival to Vought in this season. But we also get like Carlos Esposito. Is that how you pronounce his name?
Who are you talking about?
The guy who runs Vought.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He's a badass.
Yeah.
Did he confront, or did Homelander confront him in this episode? Or was
No,
that episode two?
I think that's episode 2. But what
Yeah.
Homelander did do this episode, so they're looking to replace
This
Translucent.
was so bad.
And
Okay, so this is what I wanted to talk
Okay,
about.
go ahead.
He so Homelander brings back Ashley, who was the assistant,
Yeah, the PR
in-
manager.
in season 1, to replace Madeline Stillwell.
yeah,
And
who everyone thinks was murdered by Billy Butcher,
there was
yeah.
this terrible like Walmart version of Billy Butcher on
Oh
the
my
which was
gosh.
hilarious.
so great.
like a reenactment of Madeline Stillwell's death,
Like a
And
made-for-TV.
Yeah, and they got like a D-list like British actor to play like Billy Butcher in it. It was hilarious.
It's quite fun.
bollocks, yeah.
Bollocks, yeah.
She's like, "Please just spare my baby."
So Homelander brings Ashley back to replace her. and she thinks that she has like some control over her job. And it turns out he's like, I brought you back specifically just to terrify you, and you do my bidding.
Well, just so that
She's-
I'd have somebody under me.
yeah, and how terrified of him is she?
Yeah.
Like you just see her face turn when she's like, "Oh, I have this person who's going to be the new
The new member of the
the
Seven.
new member of the Seventh." Yeah,
It's like, it's great for representation. He's differently able.
We have to set the stage for this. So basically, he's in. So Homelander is in Madeline Stillwell's office that's currently being renovated, and he finds like one last bottle of her titty milk.
Oh man, this is so
and-
weird.
can you stop calling it that, please?
and he like drinks it, and this like all 3 episodes, like there's this weird like milk fetish he has about like he'll take a drink of milk and he'll just like look like he
savor
has
it.
an orgasm.
Just savors every gulp.
he puts his nose into a glass of milk like I do a glass of wine.
Yeah, exactly, and like flick
oh,
his
the
tongue out
tannins
to like
in this
taste
milk.
it. Yeah.
It's so weird.
It's so creepy. But anyway, so like what's her name? The
Ashley?
Ashley.
Yeah.
So Ashley comes in. And,
new Stillwell.
and she's like, "Would you like to meet the new member of the Seven?" And Anthony Starr, the Homelander character, doesn't miss a beat. He's just like, "Oh, I would love to."
He's all like
Yeah.
chipper and
Yeah.
happy about
and,
it.
And so they take her. She takes Homelander into
a gymnasium or something.
Yeah, like a workout
Yeah.
place where this guy is going through like a I guess what would you call it?
Obstacle
Like an
course?
obstacle course. Thank you.
And he's flipping around.
And he's basically Daredevil. He's blind.
Yeah.
And he's an athlete, and his entire superpower is based around super hearing.
Yeah.
So he uses like sonar to like locate everything. And Ashley is while he's doing all these flips and stuff like that, Ashley's talking about like how he checks all the
Representation,
all the representation
check
marks.
boxes.
Yeah, exactly.
He's blind.
Yeah.
He's not white.
Yeah,
He's
exactly.
this and that. It's like differently abled. Like it's perfect for millennials.
and so she calls him over to meet Homelander, and he's like super excited, and he's like, Homelander, you're such an inspiration to me. Like,
Yeah.
Like I can't wait to work with you. And Homelander's like I really appreciate how you've been able to overcome your handicap. And he's like, well, you don't need eyes when you have super hearing. And Homelander's like, well, okay, well then what happens when I do this? And he like rips his ears off.
No. He does the
He
there's an action- yeah, he
claps his ears, and it basically like explodes his eardrums,
Yeah, it
and
blows
there's
out his
just
eardrums.
blood
Yeah.
pouring out of this
he
guy's
screams
head.
and falls to the floor, and like blood is just seeping out.
And
this huge-
Homelander is just like, Ashley, don't look at him, look at me.
Yeah.
And let
he
me
just-
make this
he
clear.
goes off.
You don't control shit.
Yeah, Ashley's freaking out.
Yeah. The acting in this like scene is so like
And it was-
Homelander's like, you think I'm going to let he's like, I'm going to say this. I don't know if any people are going to get offended, but he's like, you think I'm going to let a cripple on the Seven? He was like freaking out at her,
Yeah.
and it just belittled her to no end. And I was like, oh, damn.
Yeah. And the look on her face when she realizes,
crushed.
like,
Yeah.
this guy terrifies me, and now I'm trapped.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, as much love as we give Carl Urban for playing Billy Butcher, Anthony Starr freaking
So chilling.
like he is one of the great villain. Like he's up there with Hannibal Lecter in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like the way he can just like flip a switch and like go from like
Without saying a word,
Yeah.
you can just see it in his
he,
face.
he goes from Superman to Lex Luthor in like
Yes.
the blink of an eye.
yes. It's so good.
And is he blonder this season?
Well,
He's
a little bit-
blonder,
well,
right?
I think his hair's longer in this season, so he looks blonder. So Homelander was definitely flexing his like I'm the guy in charge now.
Yeah. And this is a great setup for what happens in the next episode where he takes that power to the, what is it, the 89th floor or something?
I think it's the 90
Wherever the like CEO of
94th
Vought
floor or
is,
something.
whatever floor he's on, and he takes that.
I think they're on 82, but they put all of the heroes on 90.
99.
Yeah, they put all the heroes at the top.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, it's great setup for what happens in the next episode.
Well, we did kind of go over the fact that so like a superpowered terrorist was smuggled into the States, and he kind of flips a boat over on top
Basically,
of like someone.
he's like Jean Grey, basically.
yeah,
Kinda
he has like
telekinesis.
telekinetic powers. Yeah.
So episode 2, proper preparation and planning. Do you want me to read the synopsis?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Butcher is back with the boys, but tensions flare with Huey. Homelander spends quality time with his new family, Starlight and Stormfront. Oh, we didn't talk about Stormfront.
Oh yeah,
Starlight and Stormfront bond at a press junket, and the boys hunt down a soup terrorist with a startling identity.
she doesn't get introduced until this episode.
Until this episode.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this episode 2, we get introduced to the newest member of the Seven, which is Stormfront, and
And again, Homelander was not consulted, and he's pissed.
Yeah, he's very
And
pissed.
she doesn't give a fuck.
No. Okay, so outside the show kind of thing, I know on social media, people were really worried about this season, like going super far preachy
Because
left.
in the comic, Stormfront's a man.
Yeah. And usually I can kind of forgive that if it's done well. And I was thrown on a 180 with this because I was expecting her to be completely different. And she, like the character itself, went full on like
PC.
Anti PC. And I was like, oh, I was expecting her to go full PC. So like when they showed her be that type of character where she just didn't give a shit. And she was like calling people out on their PC bullshit.
Yeah,
I was like, oh.
Like the first time we see her, she's going on set for this commercial.
Yeah.
Doing
Live on-
like an Instagram
Yeah.
live bit where she's talking with her followers, and she's like super real. Like she just speaks her mind. She doesn't give a fuck about like, you know, doing like the politically correct thing.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny because like in the next 2 episodes, you see like Vought's whole campaign is based around girl power.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's like Maeve, Starlight, and Stormfront. It's like these, it's, you know, it's the women's time.
Yeah.
Girls get it done.
Yeah.
Girls get it done. and
It's so cringy.
it's a total parody of like what's actually happening in superhero like movies and stuff,
Yes.
where it's like we gotta have more representation, we gotta have more women.
It's like the anti-Captain Marvel campaign going on.
It's hilarious.
It's so funny they did it so well. And I was so relieved because honestly, I was like worried that they were going to go full PC.
Yeah.
And it was going to kind of take away from the enjoyment of the show for me.
Yeah, and this episode is all about her being like super down to earth and real. And not to spoil anything, but you find out in season 3 that she's just as full of shit as Homelander. Episode 3 that she's just as full of shit
I can't wait to
as
talk about that.
Homelander is.
Because that's a chilling.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was pretty that was dark. But anyway, so I was like, just to cap it off, I was really, really happy with the direction that they went with Stormfront because I was genuinely kind of like, oh man, like ready to roll my eyes with this. And they completely subverted my expectations. And I was like in love with it. I'm like,
Yeah.
perfect.
Jude and I really like the actress who plays her.
Yes.
Oh yeah, yeah. She was in a show that we used to watch called You're the Worst, and she played Gretchen in that. So one of the main
she was
characters,
fantastic.
and she's fantastic.
Yeah.
She's a really good actress.
Yeah, it's really cool. It was fun to see. And then we kind of get in this episode also A-Train wakes up.
Yeah.
And so they're on this campaign, this like girl power campaign with Maeve, Stormfront,
they're doing
and
the press
Starlight.
junkets.
Yeah, and you can tell all 3 of them they're just totally over it.
Well, Maeve bails.
Yeah, well, halfway through, right? She's there for the first half?
No, they're talking about what they're going to do.
Oh, okay.
And then when they start actually doing it, she bails.
Yeah, she's got like some family emergency. Her girlfriend that we get introduced in season 1 like is in the hospital, so
Yeah.
she just like ducks out.
Yeah, and I love the fact that they actually explain that Homelander is like possessive of Maeve,
Yeah.
and that he kills anyone who gives her any type of like
Other
flirtation.
attention.
And
Yeah.
so like the reason that she can't go public with like her gay lover, who she actually is in love with, is because she's worried Homelander will kill her.
Yeah, it's a protective thing.
And she
Yeah.
finally reveals that to. So basically,
It added so much more depth to that relationship.
yeah, and her girlfriend basically, she had her appendix almost burst, so she
Yeah.
was rushed to the hospital, and Maeve was still listed as her emergency contact. So instead of doing the press junket like she was supposed to, she bails and she goes to be
Yeah.
with her girlfriend.
And while we're on the subject, I did want to say these 3 episodes, like there's, as far as like action goes, there's a few things that happen that are action oriented, but this is very much like
Episode 3 has a lot of action.
Yes, at the very end of it. Yeah, it does. But I'm saying like for the most part, these 3 episodes were really well done in the way that they set the foundation
Yes.
and explored the characters a little bit more so that I feel like we're going to really be invested in them in the later half of the season.
And so the episode starts off with a Stormfront. Basically, Maeve and Homelander are shooting a commercial for like their military efforts, and Stormfront shows up and kind of disrupts the shooting and pisses off Homelander. And then Stormfront announces, "I'm the new member of the Seven."
Yeah.
And Homelander looks at her,
yeah.
and Ashley's like, "This wasn't me."
She's like, I didn't know anything.
and so Homelander's big thing is like he feels like he's in control, and so
Yeah.
he goes to
Mr. Edgar.
Mr. Edgar,
Yeah.
who's like the head of
Who shuts
Vought.
that shit
Dude.
down like a badass.
Well,
Yes.
like Homelander walks in, and he's just like, "I'm going to walk all over Edgar."
Yeah.
And Giancarlo Esposito, the actor who plays Mr. Edgar, he doesn't blink. Like he is
Nope.
not afraid of Homelander at all, and he basically lays down the law for Homelander.
Yes, it was so good because I honestly didn't know what to expect. I'm like, I knew this guy was going to be a badass because we know him from Breaking Bad. We know him from, he's in The
But
Mandalorian.
everyone's terrified of Homelander because he's
Yeah.
the most powerful superhero
was-
ever. And this guy is just like, You're a commodity.
It was one of the best power struggles I've ever seen. The mental chess that was going on in this scene was so much fun to watch.
And I kind of have a theory that Mr. Edgar has some type of superpower that he hasn't revealed, and that's why he's like not scared of Homelander. But we also got some great info on the Vought company, because in the comics they make it clear that the guy who started the Vought Corporation was a former Nazi,
which is also true in the comic books. I think you said that.
That's what I'm saying is like from the comics he was a former Nazi who developed Compound V and started Vought America. And that was basically like, Mr. Edgar revealed to Homelander in this episode, like that's, we were founded by Nazis, and Compound V was developed by Nazis because they had tons of human test subjects that they could burn through to develop this thing. And also Esposito knows that Homelander was the one who was like trafficking Compound V and creating all these supervillains, and created like basically a whole mess that he has to clean up.
Yeah, that was a great line. He's like, we're busy down here on 89 or whatever floor it was, like cleaning up the mess that you made. And it just like shut Homelander down. And he was like, oh. Like the facial, again, with the acting with this guy, but the facial expressions just dropped.
And because Homelander got neutered so hard with his confrontation with Edgar, he then goes to exert his control over Billy Butcher's ex and his son.
Yeah.
And so that's where he shows back up.
So let's talk about this situation, because this is one of the big like cliffhangers that we all wanted to see what would happen. So when Homelander's with Becca and his son Ryan, I think is his name. Yeah, the son's name is Ryan, and he's there, and he's like, this is going to sound really weird because it's Homelander and he's a psycho, but I felt bad for him because he was trying so hard to create like, I want to be a good father. Like even it was his own weird twisted way of doing it. But he's like, I want to have breakfast with my family. I want to bond and play catch with my son. Like he's trying so hard to create some form of normalcy.
And knowing what we know about Homelander, we also know that he's incapable of any of the emotion behind these motivations.
Yeah. It's all for like, it ends up being all for selfish reasons, but it was like, he's trying so hard to create something that's just never going to happen. And he fails so epically at it. And it was so sad.
You know what Homelander reminds me of is he reminds me of like the absentee father who like knocked up a girl like years ago, and he comes back into her life and he's upset at the way that she's raising his son because he feels like his son's a pussy. And it's just such a like kind of like macho, like silly thing. But it's also interesting because like he genuinely seems to like want to coach his son to, be just like him. Like he wants him.
What did he say?
In his mind, he's bringing up.
I was breaking the sound barrier at 6 years old. Like I want my son to do that kind of stuff.
And we also find out that scientist who was kind of like Homelander's surrogate father
is still alive.
Is still alive, except like he suffered a quote unquote accident that left him paralyzed.
So,
but I thought he'd died.
Yeah, last season we had assumed that Homelander had killed him,
tortured him to death,
but it turns out he just broke his spine apparently.
Oh,
or maybe that was the cover story.
What a nice guy. He's okay, that Homelander.
That also could be a lie, though, for the media, just spinning it like, oh, he's still alive. He's fine. He's just off on his own.
No, I think he made a statement to the media.
Did he make a statement?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. My mistake. Like that whole Holmes situation, and we see Becca as the protective mother.
Yeah, she's trying to bring him up normal.
Yeah, and she's doing the best that she can, and she's got the backing of Vought for whatever that's worth. It's a pretty cage, I think, is what they refer to it as in the show, and it's true. But she's doing the best she can with what she has, and
she's basically a prisoner.
Yeah, she's trying so hard to control the situation, but Homelander just keeps walking all over her.
In this episode, so like we see Billy Butcher, like he wakes up in a parking lot after seeing Becca, and basically Homelander struck a deal with Becca where he would spare Butcher's life in exchange for getting to see his son.
Yep.
And so like he just knocks out Homelander again and drops him off in the middle of nowhere.
And that was really heartbreaking too. And when Billy's like trying so hard to remember every single detail of where Becca lives so that he can try and find her again.
Yeah.
And so like he's in the middle of like nowhere, like Illinois, goes into like some restaurant, and he just grabs like some crayons and a placemat, starts scribbling down everything he can remember.
Yeah, the yellow house, yellow ranch.
As the TV is saying he's the most wanted man because he killed Madeline Stillwell.
And the hostess is like looking at him, and he's like, ugh. He just bails and gets out of there.
And so basically, in this episode, Billy goes to see his former mentor, Grace Mallory. who's attending
Colonel Mallory.
Yeah, Colonel Mallory, who's attending the funeral of the CIA lady who died in the first episode. And so like he tracks down Mallory and he's like, look, if we can get you this superpowered terrorist, can you, get us pardoned so like, we're not being hunted constantly. And Mallory's like, okay, I'll see what I can do. So Billy and the boys go hunting for this superpowered terrorist that is running around from episode 1. And the entire time Kimiko keeps trying to communicate with Frenchie using like very simple words like boy, boy, girl.
She's learning
boy.
how to write English.
Yeah. And Frenchie can't understand her, so he just kind of like blows her off. And then
you say blows her off. He's confused. He doesn't know what she's trying to say.
So
And she's carrying around this origami like bird or something that she found at the scene of the flipped over boat.
And that gives her the clue as to who the terrorist is.
Yeah.
So when they finally track him down at this like costume shop, it's basically he's being sheltered by the same people who had kidnapped Kimiko
and killed their parents.
Yeah, and killed their parents. And Huey and Frenchie both realize that the terrorist is actually Kimiko's brother. And so like Frenchie finally puts together the boy girl like clue.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh my God. And Huey tries to warn Butcher that that's Kimiko's brother.
And Butcher's just like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah. He's like, I'm going to finish the mission. So he goes and tries to shoot the brother, kill him. And Huey kind of tackles him at the last minute, and that sets off the brother.
A little chase scene.
Well, he uses his telekinetic powers basically that just like pushes them against the wall and then like brings the ceiling down on them and stuff like that.
And Kimiko and him. Do we know the brother's name?
I don't think so.
I can't remember.
She just calls him Mouse.
Okay. So yeah, Kimiko ends up chasing him down because he's running away. So what I thought was interesting is like later on we kind of get this little conversation between Kimiko and her brother Mouse, and it kind of informs the audience that like he's pretty much become radicalized. Like he is actually
a terrorist.
A terrorist.
Yeah.
There's not a lot redeemable about him, and even though Kimiko's still trying, it's kind of like he's done.
And what a tough call for her to have to make.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was kind of a sad moment because I was like, man, that's like he's down for the cause now.
Yeah.
And it's sad to
And
realize
she's the one that takes him down because no one else can.
Yeah. It was a nice little like it wasn't like super action oriented, but it was cool to see Kimiko like doing her thing and like hopping around and chasing her brother down. It was kind of cool.
This episode also had kind of the weirdest deep scenes.
Oh my god!
Where basically the deep drinks.
Is this the one where he's on drugs?
Yes. Yeah. The deep drinks a hallucinogenic tea given to him by Eagle, and then they lock him in a room because basically he's been very closed off with the lady that is trying to get him to join the church, and so they're hoping that this hallucinogenic tea can help him kind of make peace with himself, and he starts imagining that his gills are talking to him with the voice of Patton Oswalt.
You are so beautiful
to me.
I have a confession to make. I freaking hate the deep. No offense.
Well, everyone hates the deep.
No.
That's the intention for his character.
Not the way the show is intending me to hate him. Like I don't want the show to continue to tell his story. I am done with him.
Oh my God, I think it's hilarious.
I'm so bored with it.
I love
I'm over
his
it.
skills.
No, I'm over it. I'm done. I'm like, can we finish this? Unless there's some greater like story and it pays off in a big way later on that he like maybe becomes a hero and joins up with the boys to take down the Seven or Vought or something like that. Unless that happens, I don't give a shit about anything that has to do with the team.
I think we're going to be seeing this rival superhero organization through his eyes as he gets deeper into it. No pun intended. But in this episode, like he draws a picture of himself as this like super like buff, like normal guy. And he keeps kind of denying these like gills on him because like he feels like it makes him ugly and it makes him different and he doesn't like them. And like through this hallucination, he kind of comes to peace with his gills and like the way they talk, it's just so creepy, but absolutely hilarious.
Like seriously, unless there's some huge payoff
I
later
don't know,
on,
man. Like I find his scenes very humorous.
I do too.
I find them overly cringy, and
I think eventually we're going to see him team up with Starlight. That's going to be his redemption arc.
I don't know. Starlight really hates him.
Hates his guts. But yeah, they really got to pay this off really well. Otherwise, I'm just like, I'm over it. I don't want to see any more of him.
So in this episode, A-Train comes back out of his coma.
Yep.
And Starlight is very disturbed by his
She has an
reappearance.
O ship moment.
Yeah, when he wakes up and he's like, I remember what you did. And she's like, oh, crap.
She's
It
like,
was
well, who'd you tell?
yeah. You didn't tell anybody or I'd already
And I
be dead.
enjoyed their kind of power play between each other. Like, and she was like, well, now you're involved.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a cool little dynamic that's going on. And I liked, that might have been episode 3, so we'll wait. But like the fact that he kind of covered for her at the end was like, oh, it's developing in an interesting direction.
But we also find out that A-Train isn't fully healed. Like
Yeah.
he still has these like really
His
bad
heart's
heart
weakened
murmurs.
at this point.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering.
And
like,
he's not taking a pause on any of his partying either.
no, I thought that was weird too. He's trying to get back to like his normal life.
He's
and I'm
just
like,
trying to pretend that he's fine. And never mind. It's in episode 3. Episode 3 was great. Yeah. Let's just get to it.
Okay. Is there anything else that happens in episode 2?
Not that I can remember.
Okay. We might be missing something, but you guys can.
Fuck it. Let's move on.
Yeah, all right.
Well, Starlight gets the compound V from Gecko.
And
she almost gets caught with it by A-Train, but she's able to smuggle
she
it
was
out.
pretty freaking sly with that little
Yeah.
valve.
She's getting real resourceful.
Yeah, she's like she puts it in her boot, but then right when he shows up, she slides it into Stormfront's bag.
And she got,
The pockets joke.
Yes.
There's the whole like little inside joke within the show where Stormfront complains that her costume doesn't have any pockets, and he's like, "Can we get some like?" She was calling out the PC culture with like ladies first, ladies this, and she's like, "Yeah, bullcrap. You guys didn't give me any pockets. Like, how useful would that be?"
you can see Starlight's hymen.
Yeah.
Uterus.
Uterus. You could practically see Starlight's uterus. So it was there was a lot of really cool inside jokes with that. And I just thought it was really funny because my wife complains constantly that like my wife complains constantly that the dresses that she buys doesn't have any pockets.
Yeah.
And when she finds a dress with a pocket, she's just like, I have to have it.
We all do.
Yeah. So I thought it was
Ladies unite
Yes.
with pockets.
Yes, I thought that was really great that they kind of like hammered that home and made it like a nice little fun inside joke. And it
And,
paid off as part of the plot of the movie too, or show.
Starlight does try to bond with Stormfront because she kind of appreciates the fact that Stormfront has no filter.
Is so real.
Yeah, she's kind of doing
And Stormfront just has no respect for her at all.
that was a kind of interesting play because if you think about it, like Starlight wants to be able to talk like Stormfront, but she knows that if she does, it might draw too much attention to her when she's trying to actually bring them down.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
Stormfront's
'cause
not trying to bring Vought down. She's
No.
she's just calling him out on their bullcrap.
At least we don't think so.
Yeah, we don't think so yet.
Yeah.
Yet.
And Starlight is just terrified to be real.
Yeah. Well, not even that. I think she's doing it as like kind of like a cover. Like if I'm like super pro Vought, they will never suspect that I'm the
Well,
one.
I also noticed that she's wearing her sexier outfit again.
Yeah.
And, she's having to wear a wig. And basically she's like the Barbie doll. Like they've got like a TV show of hers coming out where it's like Citizen Starlight. And
I really do
like
think
the billboards of her looking like all sexy and
Yeah, I
reclined.
really do think she's doing that to try and be able to do her real mission, which is to bring down Vought without bringing too much
probably.
attention to herself. So I like that, like from
Double life.
Yeah, the double life from the perspective of like an audience or from the perspective of somebody that lives in that world, you would see Stormfront as the one who would want to do that to Vought and bring him down and like do some shady insider business type stuff. But it's really Starlight.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a cool dynamic. But yeah, Stormfront has no respect for her whatsoever. It was a cool scene. All right, you ready to talk about episode 3?
Yeah.
You're so excited.
Over the hill with the swords of 1,000 men.
All right, Jude, what is this episode all about?
The boys take to the high seas to safeguard their prisoner. So they have successfully abducted Mouse. Homelander plays house, then pushes Ryan over the edge. Starlight is forced to make an impossible choice, and Stormfront reveals her true character.
Yeah.
This is very chilling.
All right, so let's. The boys are they stole a yacht and they're about 3 miles offshore.
Oh, what are you talking about? I got the papers right.
And
I
so
thought you
they're-
said this yacht was a friend of yours.
Well, a friend is just a stranger, you haven't met yet. And Mallory's like, if there's a way to fuck this up, you're going to. And he does.
And he does. Of course he does. It's not his fault though. It's Frenchie's. So like that's kind of where they are, and most of the action takes place around them. Like there's other plots going on, and that the show just kind of puts them out in this spot, and they're just kind of in waiting. So the bigger things that are happening, which I wanted to talk to you guys about, was Homelander being with Becca and trying to be that father figure, and it kind of like climaxes in this like rage from this poor kid.
So this is the episode where we find out that the town that Becca is in with her son is actually this huge prison. It's got this big wall around it that Vought is guarding in order to keep the kid contained and also to keep them safe from Homelander until Homelander finds it. And in this episode, like Becca tries to get out so that she can like confront Homelander or talk to Vought or something like that. And Homelander is in her house miles away, kind of going through her undies and like looking through the house. And she gets on the phone with like this security guy from Vought, and he's like, the best we can do is hope Homelander loses interest and gets bored and moves on. And later on in that episode, like Homelander makes it clear he heard that conversation.
That's weird.
And like he was miles away in the house, like he knew that he was being watched on security cameras, but like he was able to hear her conversation from miles away. And he was like, you tell that guy I'm not going to get bored.
That's crazy.
It was just like, it's like, wow, this guy is like
all powerful,
chilling.
There was so this like facility that they're in, it kind of reminded me of like the Truman Show, where like they know the mistakes that they made with Homelander was isolating him in this hospital with no parents and just lab coats and doctors, and that's all he ever grew up with. And now they know that like that basically created a sociopath.
Yeah.
Can't do that again. So now that we have like a mini me of Homelander, they're like, we have to create as normal of a life as possible while still protecting the outside world from this like super powerful kid. And I was like, okay, that's at least they're learning from their mistakes. It's like a step in the right direction, I guess. But I thought this episode where Homelander's basically forcing himself upon this kid, not in a sexual way. That sounded weird. Homelander's basically trying to like forcing
himself upon the family.
Yeah, upon the family as the father figure. Yeah. And this kid is just not having it, man. He's like,
okay. He does know what to do with him.
Yeah, he's like, okay, I love you too. Like it's like super weird. I feel bad for the kid, and Homelander's just being like super ultra creepy.
Yeah, it does feel like Professor Vogelbaum, the guy who's like the surrogate father to Homelander, like he had a big part to play in the creation of this, prison that is containing the kid and Butcher's ex and stuff like that. And you could tell in the first season that Vogelbaum was very like
remorseful.
Yeah, remorseful about how he brought up Homelander. And so like I think he didn't want to make the same mistake with this new kid. But now that Homelander's found him, that's kind of thrown the entire plan off. And it is really interesting because like this is one of those situations where like Homelander's trying to teach him how to use his powers. And they're up on the roof of the house and he literally like just like a mother bird like just knocks his kid off the top of the house and he just face plants on the ground below
and passes out or like gets knocked out from it.
And the mother comes out and Robin's just like, or not Robin, Becca is just like beside herself because like her kid just fell and Homelander flies down. And he's like, oh, it was just a 20-foot drop. He's fine. Like, you coddle him too much.
For a minute, I did think that kid got hurt. Like I knew that they kind of hinted that he had powers because his eyes glowed in the season finale of season 1. But so far at this point, they never showed the kid using any powers.
Right.
And I love how confident Homelander is in that, like, of course my kid has superpowers.
Yeah. Of course he is. He's my son. He's a god, basically. He tells his kid that. So it was, for a minute, I was like, does he actually have powers? Or is this just like, did he just kill his kid? Like,
it's not until Homelander starts threatening the mother that the kid gets upset and is able to like harness his power and actually like pushes Homelander away and onto the ground.
Homelander's so proud.
Like he's surprised at first and then he's like, that's my boy. But probably the most chilling scene, well, there's so many chilling scenes in this episode, but one of the chilling ones was when Homelander is sitting on the bed with his child and basically telling him
we can do anything
his view of the world, where he's like, we are gods.
Yeah.
We are above everything. And it's just like that look into his psyche is just like so chilling. And then like after his son,
and the kid is so uncomfortable with that.
Oh yeah. It's super weird.
And then after the son rejects him, after like, he basically says, I hate you. Like, leave us alone. Don't hurt my mother. So Homelander is like affected by that. And he goes back to the city.
And he's so baffled.
Yeah, but he goes back to the city and he sees Maeve in like the Seven's like chambers, and he's just so desperate for some type of like connection where he's like, you're the person I've known the longest. Like, our connection means so much to me, and you can tell like he's desperate for some type of like, I don't know, like emotional support.
Yeah,
and Maeve, like she was talking to her lesbian lover. before he showed up.
Why do
You have to specify it like
Because
that.
I can't remember her name. All right? I can't remember the character's name.
they're lesbian.
Lesbian.
They're
Lesbian.
affected by lesbianism.
So like Maeve's trying.
Does the word vagina make you feel uncomfortable, Lebowski?
A little bit. So basically, like Maeve is trying to play it cool because she doesn't want to alert Homelander, but Homelander knows something's up.
Yeah.
And he even asked her about like, you know, who she was talking to, and he knows that she's lying. But at that point, like Homelander just doesn't care because like he's just like so desperate for like any type of emotional support.
Yeah. So what kind of like sets the next events in motion is that the mainstream media gets a hold of the evidence that Vought has been like basically juicing babies up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Starlight
so
successfully
Starlight leaks it.
Leaks it out and it's out there in the world. So like the whole company is in like a ruckus of like, oh my God, what are we going to do about
Huey
this?
takes credit for it.
Well, yeah. He's like, well, me and Starlight.
Yeah, and the boys are actually really impressed.
Yeah. Not most
Except
of the
for
boys.
Butcher.
Except
Yeah.
for Butcher. Because Butcher's a dick.
Good on you.
Well, I think he knows that Vought's going to spin it.
Yeah.
So it's like a hollow victory.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so like this is kind of what sets in motion. Like Edgar, the CEO of Vought, has to like deal with this whole situation, along with them trying to find this super villain terrorist person. And it was a cool moment for me. I know we're all talking about how crazy and psycho Homelander is, but like at this moment where everybody's kind of like questioning what to do, he actually does step it up, and he becomes that leader. And he's like, "Look, it doesn't matter how we were made. We have a job to do. Let's go do it." And I was like,
I mean, he's known all along.
yeah, he's known all along, but I just thought it was kind of cool to see him kind of like set everybody straight and kind of
Yeah.
like organize everything.
And it was also very cool to see the rest of the heroes finding out that they were made.
Yeah.
Like Black Noir's
starts-
reaction.
he starts weeping.
I know.
That was hilarious.
That was funny.
I love Black Noir.
Black Noir's the best.
He's awesome. You guys all suck. Except for you, Black Noir.
That needs to be a T-shirt. Except for you, Black Noir. But the Deep is very affected by that revelation.
Yeah, because he's very upset with his parents. That
Yeah.
like I could have had a normal life. Like he hates himself basically. But anyway, I thought it was kind of like you hate that. One of the things that I really remember about Game of Thrones, and this is a little bit off subject, but I'll tie it back in. George R. R. Martin did a really great job of like developing these hateful people, bringing them into a situation where you end up wanting them to win. And the boys did this in this season. Like, I hate Homelander. He's crazy, and I don't want him to win. But then, like, at this point where, like, Vought is being called out for what they're doing, and you see Homelander kind of be like, you know what? I'm going to be the leader, and I'm going to do what needs to be done. We're going to go do a job. We're going to go be the heroes that everybody thinks we are. And I'm like, yeah, man, you go do your thing.
It's called making developed characters.
Yes. Well, it's great.
And it's very rare that we see that anymore.
Right.
So I just really liked that part of this episode, and like watching that happen, I thought that was really cool. It was probably my favorite part of this.
And we haven't even touched on like the previous 3 episodes. Huey in particular has been having a very hard time.
Oh, because he wants to be the leader.
Well, it's not so much that he wants to be a leader. It's just that like his life is basically rock bottom.
Yeah.
And his nerves are frayed, and he's afraid for Starlight, and he's
Constantly getting covered in blood.
worried about his dad, and things are just dark for him.
Yeah.
And he's just barely hanging on. And he also doesn't trust Butcher, and he's frustrated that the others don't trust him to lead them and stuff like that. And so like the past 3 episodes, he's just been kind of like,
He keeps getting digged and digged.
Yeah.
And that kind of culminates in this episode. But I don't want to jump too far ahead.
Well, what else do we have to talk about?
Well,
the whale.
Yeah. So basically,
We're not there yet.
basically, a helicopter shows up at the yacht that the boys are on.
Yeah.
Because it was
And they're
reported
just kind of
stolen.
chilling in the water.
Yeah, they're about 3 miles out from land, and so like the helicopter comes out, and they're like, "Oh, crap!" So
Yeah.
like Billy's gonna start to handle it, but then the mouse terrorist guy he gets loose, and he uses his powers to basically just destroy the helicopter. And the minute that happens, like an alert goes out. And so like the 7 is dispatched to like find these guys
Yep.
and bring them in. And so like Billy starts trying to get the boat to land. And as they're going there, the Deep shows up because this is his chance to kind of get back in the 7, according to like the crazy Scientologist lady.
Yep.
And so like he uses his fish powers to get the fish to attack the boat and take out the engine. And so the boys are forced to jump into the speedboat that's attached to the boat and, make for land. And as they're racing towards land, that there's like this like sewer.
Just like a drainage grate.
Like a runoff. And so they're trying to make it to that. And the Deep hops on a whale and like outswims them. And then he like
rides a whale in front of them to block their path.
And it's this very like heroic, like Aquaman.
He stands.
Where like the whale blocks their way and he stands on top of the whale.
He's feeling so powerful.
Yes, he's like, I'm going to stop these evil people.
And
then
they run that boat straight through the whale.
Well, the minute Butcher sees it, he just revs up the engine and everyone's like, Butcher, what are you doing? And Butcher's just got this smile on his face. and the Deep is like, oh shit. And like the motorboat runs into the whale, impales the whale so hard it knocks the Deep off of him, knocks him out.
And that whale dies real slow.
Yeah. Oh yeah, his heart's still beating. It's still
but all the whole group of the boys are inside the whale, and they like claw their way out. They're covered in like whale intestines and blubber and blood and stuff like that. And Huey is so traumatized by the whole thing.
He's just like, you guys go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just gonna stay here.
Hang out.
You guys are good. Yeah, this is like one of the character development moments for Huey because he's been constantly watching this music video from Billy Joel. And he's like, in that song, he leaves a message for Starlight. He's like, in that song where like the guy's going to jump off because he's hit rock bottom, but then Billy Joel shows up and he's like, gives him his second win. And that's what the song's about. He's like, I'm waiting for that second win, man. And he's sitting in this whale like carcass. Yeah. He's just covered in blood.
Covered in whale parts.
Butcher tries to get him to come. He's like, all right, son, let's go. We got to get out of here right now. And he's just like,
and he's checked out.
He's like, no, fuck off. I don't want nothing to do with you. And Billy's like, your call. Fine. Fuck it. See you later. And then Mother's Milk actually comes in. He's like, I thought this was a cool moment because it showed that Mother's Milk actually does have a lot of respect for Huey. And he sits in there. He's like, if you ain't leaving, I ain't leaving. And it's funny because Huey's like, you're an asshole. Because he knows, he's like, I'm not going to put you in danger because of my emotions. So they get up and leave together. And then Mother's Milk kind of like explains to Butcher, like, dude, this kid's on his last limb. Like, you got to help him. You've got to talk to him. And he's like, I don't want, whatever. I already tried.
Which also shows the difference between Huey and Butcher is that Butcher is so tunnel vision about what he wants to have happen that he doesn't care who gets left behind. He doesn't care who gets killed in the process. Whereas Huey is just like, I'm checked out. I'm ready to die. But then as soon as Mother's Milk puts himself in jeopardy, Huey is like, okay, let's keep going.
And then the whole seven show up, led by Homelander, and they find the Deep there, kind of mourning over like Lucy. Was that
Lucy the whale?
Lucy the whale.
Homelander just doesn't want to have it. He's like, Lucy, whatever. And it's so stupid.
And we have like a really awkward confrontation between Starlight and the Deep.
Yeah.
But the Deep is trying to be a better man about it
in the most cringeworthy way possible.
Yeah.
And so then they start trying to track down the boys through the underground.
And Homelander says, whoever finds them, leave them for me.
Yeah. And so A-Train's running through like the tunnel system looking for them. But of course, he keeps getting interrupted by the fact that he's having heart attacks. And Homelander's like, are you okay? And he knows he's not okay.
Yeah. Because Homelander, I mean, he can hear a conversation from miles away. Of course, he can hear
it was established
heart.
in the first season. He can hear like people's heartbeats and stuff like that. So he must know that like A-Train's on he's dying.
Totally. And
also doesn't really care.
Yeah.
So the entire seven are searching for the boys through this underground like drainage system. And Starlight comes upon Huey, who kind of fell back because he's still in a daze from being rammed into a whale. And he's so happy to see her because he thinks that she got his message, and she knows that Homelander is like listening, and so like she uses her powers to knock him down.
Yeah. And
the rest of the boys are just like a couple feet away, and they see this happening, and Homelander shows up. And he's basically like, "Oh, this guy again."
Yeah, he's calling her on her bluff.
Yeah, and he's like, "Kill him!" And he's about to make Starlight kill Huey, and Huey realizes the situation, and he's just like,
he's accepted it.
He gives her the nod. He's like, "To protect you, please go ahead, kill me."
Yeah.
And at that moment,
"Oi, cunt!"
At that moment, Butcher steps out, and basically, for once, he forgoes the mission.
Yeah.
and chooses to save Huey.
I think if Homelander hadn't been there, he wouldn't have done that. I think he just wanted one more chance to come toe to toe with Homelander.
I mean, like, I think that
You
the
think
fact
if it was another
Yeah, if it
member
had
of
been
the
like
Seven?
A-Train and Starlight, Butcher would have just let him die.
Really?
I think so.
Huh.
possibly, I don't know about
He
that.
never misses an opportunity
but-
to get in Homelander's face.
Yeah, but essentially, like he lets Mouse go, and he's like, do your terrorist thing.
Yeah.
And so Mouse attacks Homelander, and he doesn't really kill him, but he brings like the whole top of the tunnel down on him. So he kind of takes him out of the situation for the time being. And then, like, the boys kind of rescue Huey while
Yeah. And just to interrupt, I'll let you finish, but like that was a moment where like Huey realized that Butcher actually does care about him, and it gives him that second win.
Butcher was Billy Joel.
Yes, Butcher was Billy Joel, which was I think Huey didn't really want to realize that, but he was.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue.
And they're even kind of dressed alike from the
Yeah, he's
video.
got the trench
Yeah.
coat and everything. Yeah.
So Mouse so when he collapses the ceiling in on top of Homelander, it opens up a avenue for escape to the outside, and so Mouse like leaves, like he gets out of there, and Kimiko follows him. And while they start escaping, the rest of the Seven kind of hone in on where he's at, and Stormfront shows up.
Yeah.
And Stormfront
And
starts pursuing them.
This is where it gets real
This
dark.
is where it gets
Yeah.
fucked up.
Dude,
yeah.
you couldn't wait to talk about this, so why don't you take it away? What happens when they're chasing Mouse?
Oh, she's just killing everyone. No one matters.
Yeah.
Stormfront is, right?
Yeah, she's like first she throws Mouse into like an apartment. And
Yeah, it's just some family, like with a father and two kids.
Yeah.
yeah, and you don't really think anything of it. You just think I kind of expected her to be like, sorry about the mess and keep going.
Right.
But then like there's like one girl I think that's screaming.
Well, she like pushes the father. And
Yeah.
it's-
She kills the father.
She kills the father by
Yeah.
pushing him into like the refrigerator, and you can see blood all over the place.
yeah, and then
and his
the one,
daughter starts
the one
screaming.
girl starts screaming, and then you just
She gets annoyed.
It's like off camera, but you just see it's like decimated. She just shatters the entire
she
apartment.
uses her powers to kill the two kids.
Yeah, and like you can see from the outside of the building, she's just going floor by floor and just killing everyone in this
Yeah.
apartment
Anybody that
complex.
she
Just innocent bystanders.
Yeah.
Collateral damage up the wazoo. It was
Oh yeah,
crazy.
and then Kimiko and Mouse get up to the roof, and they're trying to escape, and he jumps to the next building, but then Kimiko is in trouble, so he comes
Yeah,
back.
Stormfront catches up with Kimiko.
Yeah,
Kimiko.
You say
Whatever.
potato, I say potato.
so Mouse comes back to save her, and Stormfront just gets off so hard on killing this guy. And she's like, "Don't close your eyes.
I
I
want to
watch it." Yeah. Oh God! And you realize what a psychopath she is.
Yeah.
And then Homelander shows up.
Yeah,
And
after-
he's
yeah.
like, I said,
To wait for me.
yeah.
Or he was
mine, and she
Yeah.
was like, you snooze, you lose.
Old man.
Gramps
Yeah,
or something
Gramps.
like that.
Oh God!
I have never wanted to see Homelander kill somebody so badly. I was like, get her, Homelander.
But Kimiko,
Kimiko. Kim.
So she actually witnesses, like she's hiding, and she witnesses Stormfront kill her brother.
Yeah.
And at the end of the episode, where basically the boys have like regrouped and they're all in like their hideout place, and there's this big televised press conference where the Seven are in the background, kind of handing out
Like supplies.
to
Yeah.
like the affected community that went through like the building that Stormfront basically destroyed. And Stormfront and Mr. Edgar are giving this press conference, and they're talking about like how they're not going to allow super villain terrorists to run rampant in the city. And the entire time that Stormfront's talking and like she's just like laying out all of the lies, we see Kimiko watching her, and there's just a slow pan in on her face,
man.
and you just know like, oh, it's on.
It's
Yeah.
there's a big time rivalry.
She's got
Because girls get it done.
that's right. But it was nice to see like so Butcher and Huey have come to like an understanding.
yeah. They're solidified in their resolve.
And also, it was nice that, like, at one point, Mother's Milk just acknowledges that Kimiko is one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of rivalries going on. Like the Seven's pretty much fractured. So you've got Homelander. He doesn't trust Stormfront. He knows Maeve is lying to him. He knows A-Train is kind of like on the rails. A-Train. And,
Everybody hates the deep.
Yeah. Everyone hates the deep. A-Train and Starlight have like this weird, kind of like mutually assured destruction thing going on.
Yeah.
But Black Noir is cool.
He's the
Was he
best.
even there?
Yeah, he was there.
He was there? Okay.
Yeah, he just didn't really do a whole lot in this episode other than cry.
I mean, and that's the genius of his character. He doesn't do a whole lot in any
But he's the
episode.
coolest
but
one.
he's the coolest. He's never said one thing,
Nope.
but he emotes and acts. And, oh man, he's so cool.
Yeah, one of the most interesting parts of this episode for me was kind of when Starlight and A-Train are confronting each other over the leak of Compound V to Vought or to the press. And A-Train kind of says to her, he's like, man, you never fuck with the money.
Yeah.
And that's directly from the comic book. And so like, it was nice to see that kind of call back to the comic book in this episode.
Oh, right on.
And I think Mr. Edgar is kind of representative of the money.
Yeah, for sure.
But it is interesting because every episode we get more layers to these characters where A-Train is just like, spoken as someone who's never had no money,
Yeah.
like that type of thing. So we just keep getting new and new layers. And that's what makes this show so good is that even though it's like a superhero show, it's like really fucked up drama.
Yeah, and we're even getting like a backstory into like how their lives were as kids. Like Maeve's dad used the money for like his gambling,
yeah.
and A-Train, who knows what his parents did with the money that they got from letting Vought experiment on their kid. And like Annie's mother used it to raise her. So like it's interesting to get a little backstory on just like further into their childhood and that like their upbringing and what their situation was as kids.
Yeah. Take care of your kids, people.
And
matters.
This is actually the first episode where the boys actually kind of went up against the Seven proper, and they got spanked pretty hard.
Oh, duh.
Well, yeah.
Who expected them to win?
Well, in the comics, the boys actually take Compound V, so they have superpowers to fight the superheroes.
You think we're going to see that coming up?
I think it's definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of funny because
Are their superpowers like short lived?
Yeah. And
Yeah,
they-
because
they-
Homelander said like it was really messy experimenting with it on
Yes.
adults.
Yeah.
so like in the comic, Butcher just injects Huey with it.
Oh, that's
Of course
happening.
he does.
That's happening.
Of course he does.
Where he just and Huey's like, "What did you do?" And he's like, "I just injected you with Compound V." and he's like, "Why?" It's like, "Well, we need someone to fight the superheroes."
That is 100% happening. I'm
So what's his power?
So Huey in the comic books, he becomes like super strong
Okay.
and durable. So like he's able to like punch through the stomach of like a superpowered like individual or something like that. But it's persistent. So like he becomes like the superpowered like member of the group.
Okay.
But it's also like really annoying to him because like he doesn't always know how to control it.
Oh
So
my God. That's so happening. Yeah, we're going to see that happen for sure.
I hope so.
That's what I was going to ask you guys as final thoughts. Going forward, what do you guys see happening or what do you want to see happen? So go ahead, Jude. In the next 3 or 4 episodes that we're going to get.
I want more of Black Noir.
You want more Black Noir?
Yeah, he's cool.
He's pretty cool. I'd like to see maybe like a whole like, I don't know, dance montage or something. Because I know he's got more tricks up his sleeve. He could play the piano. Like he's a skilled fighter. He's a cool dude. I bet he can dance.
drink through a mask.
Yeah.
All right. Is that it? That's all you want to see? Just more Black Noir?
I mean, I'm just excited to see where it goes this season.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's off to a strong start.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
very cool
I'm
start.
very interested to see what the dynamic between Stormfront and Homelander becomes. Like, I could see it going either way. They could either like become involved or kill each other.
Okay. So, Kadish, what do you want to see in the next couple of episodes?
Well, I definitely want to learn more about this weird church thing, the conspiracy within Vought for like some type of coup. I do think we're going to see a lot more back and forth between Stormfront and Homelander, which looks pretty good. But I really want to see the boys just kind of like spank more superheroes because I think this show is at its best when like the boys are the Spice Girls, they're all working together and like they freaking take down a superhero. Like that stuff is what I really love about this show.
Yeah. I love these first 3 episodes, but I do feel like they were a little bit tamed as far as like the taking down the superheroes goes.
They seemed a lot more focused on the soups than the boys.
Yeah. And that's just fine because it was all character development. So it was like deserved and needed. So it's cool. I like this, the setup that they have, but I really want to see more action. It's one thing, number one. And I want to see what happens with Starlight, because she's dangerously close to being called out by not only A-Train but Homelander as well, and like she's in the middle of it, and like for her to get out,
I don't think Homelander trusts her at
yeah,
all.
no, not in the little
Homelander doesn't trust any of the except for Black Noir.
Well, okay.
I wonder
What I meant was, I think that even though he doesn't trust anyone, he still doesn't think that anyone would go against him. But I don't think that he thinks that about Starlight. I think that he suspects that she's up to no good. He's just got to prove it or make her become more like him.
who kills Stormfront, Homelander or Kimiko?
You assume that she gets killed. I would go with
I don't-
Kimiko, though. I think the smart money is on Kimiko.
Yeah,
Kimiko.
I don't see her dying.
Not like, maybe not in this season, but somebody's going to get her at some point.
No, I mean they set up
Kimiko's impossible to kill.
they set up Kimiko like, you know, her laser eye focus is on Stormfront.
Yeah.
So like, you know, you got to have the protagonist take down the antagonist. So I think that we're going to see a lot of back and forth between Homelander and Stormfront, but I don't think Homelander is going to kill Stormfront.
So far, and this is almost impossible to have happen, but so far we haven't seen anybody go up against Homelander that could like match him. And I really want to see what he can do.
It's going to be his kid.
Like who you think? If a freaking 9-year-old takes out Homelander, I swear to God, I'm going to write
He's
this
got
show off.
Homelander's powers.
Well, I could tell you how they take him down in the comic.
No,
but
don't.
You
don't.
probably wouldn't like it.
No, don't spoil it for me. I really want to see, Homelander go all in on something in a battle or something. I want to see him like at his height, use all of his powers.
It was cool to get to watch 3 episodes back to back.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, I really wish the rest of the season was out. I want
Yeah.
to know what happens.
I could have finished it all
Oh,
yesterday.
Yeah.
We could have binged the whole thing.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, that's it. That's our first 3 episodes of The Boys Season 2. Hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown. Go check out the show on Amazon Prime and look for our podcast every week. We're going to be breaking down the new episodes that drop. So subscribe, like, share the podcast with your friends if they like this show and if you guys like our commentary on it. And before we leave, where can we find everybody on the socials? Jude.
You can find me at I am Jude Juju on Instagram and Twitter.
Right on. And Matthew Kadish.
At Matthew Kadish, Kadish on Twitter, and kadishbooks.com on Amazon.
Right on. Thank you. And you guys can go to saltynerdclub.com, become a Patreon there. You get access to a bunch of cool content, exclusive podcasts, blooper reels, not TV shows. We have our own show,
We will soon.
stickers and all kinds of cool stuff, t-shirts and whatnot. So check us out, become a club member and help support the podcast. All right, guys. See you later.